Hello, end of June 2025. Still here, still on Mother Earth, still watching the planets as they appear to travel around us, reflecting back what's going on Mother Earth. Transiting Uranian energy has been very much in evidence in our lives in the last 2 weeks. Uranus, that planet of change and explosive, dramatic change, many times disruptive. With every bomb that is dropped, with every extreme explosion or accident, Uranian energies are involved. And as Uranus changes signs, we see this energy manifesting even more in our lives. Now, Uranus has been in Taurus for the last 7 years. We've seen a great deal of change with the cost of things, and certainly with the cost of land, another Taurus thing. The cost of housing and land tripling in many places during the last 7 years. So change will be the name of the game for Gemini things, for the world, and for us individually for the next 7 years. Now, the last time Uranus was in Gemini, from 1942 to 49, World War II was taking place, and the first atomic bomb was dropped. If you go back a cycle before that, 84 years before that, when Uranus was in Gemini, the Civil War in the USA was starting. So Uranus is going to be in Gemini again for the next 7 years. And as it enters Gemini, we especially will see its energies manifesting. Now, the 7th is only a couple of days away. Communications, education, alliances, freedom issues, revolution, consciousness shifting, but especially communications and education and ideas, AI. All of these things are going to change dramatically during the next 7 years. And disruptive change all around, communications especially, will be notable in our lives as the change takes place. Certainly notable, we have seen digital service taxes coming into effect in the last 2 days between Canada and the US. And we may see more and more of this. Potential for disruption in our communications with the lack of power, with debate and argument and cost over the service of all of the various media, internet energies, maybe not available. Taxes being fought over. These are very much to be expected during the next period of days and weeks, not only because we're seeing Uranus shift into Gemini, the sign that is of communications, ruled by Mercury. The planet Mercury is going to be retrograde during July. Mercury turns retrograde July 17th in the sign Leo. Great deal of pride getting in the way of communications, possibly. It will stay retrograde until August 10th. At that time, it will be at 4 degrees of Leo, and it'll slowly turn direct. But during those days between the 17th of July and the 10th of August, we're going to be seeing challenges in communications, challenges with all mercurial things and Gemini things, and possibly Leo things, being that Mercury is retrograde in Leo. So where do you have Leo in your chart? Take note. This is where Mercury will be traveling and where it will be retrograde. But the really big one going on is the Uranus shift. Again, it only happens once every 7 years, and a full cycle only happens every 84 years. What's notable is Uranus is going to be in Gemini from July 7th until November 8th. Then it will retrograde back to Taurus. And again, we may see a high probability of sudden dramatic change taking place in Taurus things from November 8th right through until the spring of 2026, April, when Uranus enters Gemini again and continues that this time. So Uranus doesn't fully enter Gemini until April of 2026, but it's making its first entry this summer, and we're getting a taste of it. If we have extremes having been taking place with Uranian energies the last 2 weeks, we can expect in the spring of 2026 these same energies will return, and a pattern normally repeats. We may see, again, some extreme energies involved in terms of potential for countries' disruptive disagreement between them and disruptive behavior from Donald Trump. Now, Donald Trump was born with the Sun in Gemini and Uranus in Gemini, and they were conjunct. So this is a man who his personality is given to change, sudden change, quick change, going one direction, then changing and going another direction. This is what Gemini is all about. No stick-with-itness. Now, one of the gifts, one of the qualities that you wish to see with Gemini is communication skills, or there's an accent on communications in the person's life. They either have a difficult time with them, they're disruptive, or they're very skilled with communications, one way or the other. But Gemini doesn't complete things. They start many, many, many things all at once, and that's their skill, multitasking. But they also tend not to finish anything, and it can be very disruptive. There's lack of continuity, and for someone who is leader of a country, it's not positive energy. It's extremely disruptive, as we are seeing this constant change, and the constant change is inevitable through this period with Uranus shifting into Gemini. So at best, Gemini is flexible, adaptable, but indecisive. No continuity, no carry through. This is the issue. And with Uranus in Gemini, we'll see sudden and quick change and disruptive change, or inventive positive change eventually, with Gemini things, communications, AI, education, countries' alliances, people's alliances shifting, freedom issues, revolution, consciousness shifting. Because Uranus is the planet, these are all going to manifest in Gemini things. So one of the things that is notable, again with the US of A's chart, transiting Uranus is coming back to where it started from. Uranus was in Gemini in the country's chart. The last time Uranus was conjunct its birth planet was 84 years ago. And when this happened, there was preparation taking place. Preparation taking place for D-Day, part of the World War II activities. And if we go back to the cycle before that, in the 1860s, June 1860, in fact, Uranus was conjunct Uranus. And that is precisely when the first steps to the American Civil War started, with 7 states leaving the Union. So when Uranus comes back to where it started from again, in 2 years' time, will we see states leaving the Union? Will we see the beginnings of a second Civil War? It would be a pattern repeating. Certainly something to be concerned about. One of the things that's more immediately of concern, Donald Trump was born with Mars at 26 degrees of Leo. Israel, we see Mars at 28 degrees of Leo. Netanyahu also has Mars at 26 degrees of Leo. Transiting Mars was sitting at 26 degrees of Leo when the bombing on Iran started. 26 degrees of Taurus is where we see Iran's moon, and Uranus is sitting right on the moon for the country of Iran, and Uranus is squaring Mars for Donald Trump, for the country of Israel, and for Netanyahu, all at the same time as the bombs were dropped in Iran. And I mention this because Mars was actively engaged in this energy. This is all going to happen again. Transiting Uranus is going to retrograde after November of this year, back to Taurus. It's going to go back to 26, 27, 28 degrees of Taurus, which squares Donald Trump's ascending sign again, squares the Mars energy for Netanyahu, for Israel, and Uranus will be on top of the moon at that time again for Iran. So that's April. That's March, April of 2026. Uranian patterns, concern, an awareness that we need to initiate new beginnings, new starts, new directions in an optimistic fashion, because sudden change and sudden dramatic changes in direction will be coming out of our life experience at this time one way or another. So we're seeing Uranus come back to where it started from for the US. And what's notable is next spring, when all this Uranian energy is taking place again in Israel's chart and in Donald Trump's chart, we also see that as when Saturn and Neptune fully enter the fourth house for the USA, all simultaneously. February, March, April 2026 will be 3 months of extreme, intense change and a tremendous disruptive focus on civil unrest in the US of A, because this is when Saturn and Neptune will fully enter the fourth house. They're just at the doorway now this summer, and they're going to retrograde, but they will enter, and they'll enter there at the same time Uranus is entering Gemini again next spring. So notice the changes taking place. You may see changes taking place in the cost of your service in terms of communications, any form of communications. Extreme sudden accidents, or just simply extreme sudden new beginnings, new directions, positive and negative potentials with this Uranian energy so sudden and so visible, so much in evidence in our lives. Take care and be aware, and take note where Uranus is traveling. You need to know, which house is it in? Where do you have Gemini? Where do you have Taurus? Uranus is going to be affecting Taurus things and Gemini things. The land itself, some countries' land is blowing up. In this first instance, it certainly was Iran, and I believe as well, of course, in Gaza still and in Ukraine. Take care.